I'm Cedric.
I'm Zach.
I'm Elijah.
And today we're talking about the portrayal of blacks in Western cinema, the use of the N-word, and comparing Spike Lee and Tarantino in different versions of Django. Me and Eli are both black males, and I wondered, Zach, how do you think black people are portrayed in film or TV, and just the roles they play as actual actors or in production companies, those type of things?
I definitely feel I've seen some TV shows where it seems like the black guy is like he's the token, he's just like the one person of color in the show, and they always seem to have that certain role. They're either, I don't want to throw around these terms, but one's either kind of like a Uncle Tom, or the other one's like the typical like goof off black stereotype, and I've seen that a lot in like TV growing up. I've noticed now, I feel like in some shows you get a better portrayal, I believe, of black people in shows and TV and movies. But I think when I was growing up, I definitely saw some portrayal that was not really, I guess, good for the stereotype that blacks face in our society.
Yeah, because what I see is you see blacks in like the stereotypical black role, whereas you would see like more white actors getting put into certain roles that you don't see black people get put in unless it's a stereotypical role.
Yeah,
what do you think, Eli?
Well, I feel like the roles that they give us are not equal to what we should be playing. Like the movie that just came out, Gods of Egypt, all the actors are white when we know that most of them are African American or have darker skin, and it'd just be easier to get people of color instead of having to make all these white people go tan and change the color of their skin. And there's so many movies that they do that, and it's just like it'd just be easier to grab an African American, because there's tons of actors out there that are African American that could take over these roles, and they just don't get the role at all.
I've definitely seen that. I remember that in the headlines when that movie came out. It was a pretty big deal how the cast was like 99% white or something like that. It was a large percent of it white.
What do you think as far as like you said, like the Uncle Tom role or other type of roles that you could see a white person also play? Why do you think they put a black person in that role to make it seem like this is what a black person is, instead of seeing also white people in the roles?
I think.
And then the reverse is,
yeah,
you see white people in black films, and it kind of seems like they're somewhat in a stereotype too. And I don't know if that is a realistic portrayal or if it's kind of like a parody thing. So this is what we think of white people, so we're putting them in this role.
Well, I definitely feel like the stereotype is like it's a word for a reason. Like when they're in TV shows and movies, black people are in these stereotype roles because that's what their stereotypes, I feel like, are. Like it's, you get like the two stereotypes. Like I remember, it's probably not nowadays, but I remember learning about this a while ago. Like after I think like in like the 1800s or 1900s, you get the stereotype of the Uncle Tom or the Nat Turner. And those are like the two stereotypes that you get. And those, it's like, I don't know, it's not a good thing to have, like those two different paths.
Yeah, we don't see like a criminal being a black person.
Yeah.
That portrays, as you're younger, all you see are black guys as criminals and not in like positions of power that could also have been a person of white or other backgrounds as the criminal.
I feel like you see, I'm thinking back to one of Spike Lee's movies, The Inside Man, and then also to like Die Hard, where the successful criminal is white. You see like some movies where like the high white collar crime, those guys, they're white guys, because they're apparently the masterminds.
Yeah, the only movie I can think where the criminal is successful, and you might know the name, Eli, with Martin Lawrence when he's the jewel thief, and he goes undercover to become a cop, and he eventually is able to escape. But I can't think of any other successful black criminal movies where they're able to pull off these big lavish crimes and not end up in jail or murdered.
Nope, there's none. It's always them ending up being shot, ending up in jail. I haven't seen one movie where a black person is portrayed like getting away, except for that one movie with Martin Lawrence.
Yeah.
It's either like petty crime, or they get like beaten by the white detective or something.
Yeah. The type of crime you see them doing is like drug related.
Yeah.
Sexual acts.
It's all
Burglary.
stereotype. It's all in stereotype.
The white crime is like these very complex like robberies
Like
or
fraud.
Yeah. The white collar.
The big heavy
stuff.
big heavy ones.
Yeah. I don't know, is that a realistic portrayal? Because you don't really see too much of those kind of crimes from black people in real life.
I don't think you see a lot of those crimes like in real life at all.
Yeah.
Like you see like
But the ones you do see are
Ponzi schemes occasionally.
white people.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
White
I mean,
males.
yeah, because I mean, if you look at like the population of like CEOs of companies or like Fortune 500 companies, like the large percentage is white.
Yeah,
male.
as well as like board members.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, so I mean, I think it's maybe playing off of a thing where they're looking at actual like real life, where it's like, well, the majority of CEOs and high ups, executives are white, so
Yeah.
why not? But I mean, still, it's still a stereotype. It's kind of saying like, hey, blacks can't do this.
Yeah.
Like they can't have a heist like this.
It does remind me though of that other Denzel movie, American Gangster. He goes to jail, right? And it's based off the real story, and then eventually he helps like consult with the FBI in helping them to solve crime. And like he's a speaker now to schools and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that's like an actual real life thing, but I haven't really seen in fictional movies where the black guy's able to do this thing and get away with it.
Yeah, no, there hasn't been one. It's kind of like I watched the movie Black Mass.
Yeah, it's about Whitey Bulger in Boston.
Whitey Bulger,
Yeah.
and how he didn't get caught till he was like almost 70.
Yeah.
When he should have got caught when he was like in his 30s or 40s. He was pretty young, and he got to basically live free up until he finally got caught because of a tip.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Going back to that, I think like the original question, it's all a stereotype like that. I feel like that's what's present in the media, and that's like because it's present in the media, because it's out there and you're seeing it almost every single day. I feel like I don't know. Is this true? You guys can tell me, but do you feel like you need to strive towards a stereotype, or do you feel like no matter what you do, you're always going to be put in a stereotype?
I think no matter what you do, you kind of get put into it, because like my dad is African and my mom's white, and so I have more fair skin. And then you hear people say like, "Oh, you're half black," or "You're this and that," but then it's like you'll have some people that will say, "But I'm half white," or they relate more to white, or they relate more to black. But it's kind of like, why do you have to claim one? And then you look at how you're portrayed in movies. It's like sometimes you want to claim one side for other things, and the other for others, just because your friend group or who you're around are going to accept you more, or they're going to put you into a box regardless, and that can cause like confusion as you're growing up, especially if you're the only like black kid in your peer group in your school or your grade.
Yeah.
Have you had experience with that?
Actually, yeah. Almost all my life, I got teased for, the way I talk, the way I dress. Everybody's like, "Oh, you're such a white black kid," and I never understood the stereotype. I'm like, well, the color of my skin is black. What does that have to do with me acting black? Like, I didn't know we were supposed to act a certain way. Am I supposed to, sag my pants or go get hella, like, tickets and stuff, get jail time? Like, no. There's a lot of successful black men out there. Why can't I be like them? Why do I got to be the white black kid? Because I don't do that.
And if you try to be successful, you get labeled as being a white black kid. I feel like that happens a lot. Where if you try to reach for your potential, it's all of a sudden why are you acting so white?
Yeah.
Why, like I've heard that. Like I grew up in very white areas with very few other black peers, I guess. And I heard that a lot, like, oh, you're the whitest black kid I've ever met. I mean, I'm not saying I personally heard that because I'm white, but I've heard that said to an African American friend of mine. And I just never...
Have you heard the reverse of, like, he's the blackest white guy or girl I know? Because they like to act,
Yeah,
quote, how the stereotypical black person would.
yeah, I've heard that. But you usually hear that around, like, delinquents. Like, I have a friend who, I think he's gone to jail once now, and we just graduated from high school. He's always, like, always intoxicated, I guess, if you want to put it in, like, nicer ways to say, but he's really, it's almost a surprise that he graduated. You know, I'm not trying to put down on this kid, but he's really, he doesn't have a drive that a lot of people do. You know, he's lazy. Mm-hmm. I guess could be one stereotype that you could attribute, but you always hear, like, I don't know.
Is this a white kid? Or
yeah,
like,
it's a white kid.
Okay. People would kind of say, like, oh, he's black. Or things
Not like straight up like that, but there's a lot of ways of saying, like, there's a lot of ways.
What would people say about it? For, like, example, if a black kid was to go in jail and do all those things, you might hear comments like, it's expected of him, he's a black guy, what do you expect?
Of course he's doing that.
Yeah.
That's what they always do. With
your friend, what kind of things were said about him in, like, racial connotations or whatever?
Let me try to remember. I think it was, I remember I saw this mugshot on Facebook, actually. Someone linked to it, and I saw it, and I kind of expected it from him because I know his character, but I don't really know what people from the outside of him thought. Like, I don't know if I showed him to you guys. Would you guys immediately?
What kind of, like?
I'm trying to.
How did he dress? Did he dress more thuggish?
I guess. I mean, you kind of hear the term ghetto thrown around a lot, which is, I don't know, which doesn't even make sense to even attribute that to.
So my question for that is, if all his friends were, like, black and dressed kind of similar, would you think he would fit in and you would think, oh, those are some thugs? Whereas if he just was like that in a group of white friends...
If he was surrounded by people who act the same way that were black, yeah, I might say that that's like a group of thugs, I guess. I don't really... That's not a word I usually use often, but I guess you could call them thuggish.
So my next question is, we discussed this in class.
I think I interrupted you, Eli. Like a while ago.
I was going to say, when he said the thing about the group of white kids, I mean, I feel like people would be like, oh, they're just a bunch of wanksters, like, you know, they're trying to be black and all that.
Yeah, I mean, you always hear that. Like you always hear that when, like, you see all the white kids with
their wigger.
Yeah, when white kids wear their pants low, and you always get that one old ass white guy saying, like, you know where that originally came from.
You, like, hear them trying to be black, which is kind of offensive. Like,
yeah,
just because there's black people doing that and they're doing it, why can't they just be trying to do what they're comfortable in? Why does that have to be stereotyped negatively as trying to be black?
Exactly. Like I don't mean to bring, like, too much race into it, but also Hispanics do it and they don't get any, like, recommendations from it. Yeah. They're just it's just them.
That just comes to that just comes to a stereotype.
Yeah,
that just comes to Hispanic stereotype.
Someone to say, "Oh, you're acting white," and it's like, why? If I'm doing something positive, it's acting white. Why can't it just be? He's just being Cedric or Eli or Zach. Yeah. Instead, it comes classified to race. So, my one question is: in class, we talked about. I'm not sure if you were there.
I don't think I was.
In the. Was it anime directors? Miyazaki. Him and Spike Lee. A lot of kids were talking about how it was uncomfortable watching certain scenes and stuff they weren't controversial or anything. They were just, this is how the black culture is and the Japanese culture, and this is just what's normal to them. And a lot of the kids, white kids, very uncomfortable with it and thinking they're, like, turned off to it. They don't want to watch it because I haven't seen this and I didn't grow up on this, so it makes me not want to watch it. And it comes off very ignorant, like, because it's different culture, and you don't understand it, you don't want anything to do with it, and that helps to fuel stereotypes. So like you said, you grew up in like predominantly white area.
Yeah.
How were like black people portrayed to you, and like what did you think of them? And then as you came to this school where now you have what, 8 black teammates? I mean,
A good amount.
5 to 10.
5 to 10.
And your roommate Eli here, black,
Mm-hmm.
and you. I'm sure you had some type of. Well, I guess you guys met before, but
Yeah.
some type of predetermined ideals about each other, and then as you're around him more and more, how did that match with the way you were brought up? Were there things that were uncomfortable to you, and then over time you're like, oh wow, that wasn't uncomfortable at all? And was it a color issue, or is it just a human-to-human issue?
I don't think there was any points where I was uncomfortable. You know, I mean, I've been living with Eli how many months now?
Almost 7.
7 months, and I mean, I've questioned some of the stuff that he's done, but nothing's made me uncomfortable. I've never seen him do something that was like made me not want to be here. I guess, you know, I've never felt uncomfortable. I don't know.
Did you question those things specifically because he was black, or it's just like, the fuck is he doing? This dude's weird.
I think it's kind of that because I mean, Eli, not to just like throw you under the bus here, but he wears like sports shorts, like gym shorts underneath, like if he wears sweatpants or if he wears jeans or something like that. And when I first started seeing it, I was like, why? Like, what? Why are you doing that? But I mean, you told me that it's just something you've been doing your whole life, right?
Yeah, it's comfortable.
I mean, I've never questioned if that was a black thing. That's just something I thought Eli did. So I don't know if that's a predominantly black thing to do, but
What about, to put you on the spot, your Snapchats? When Eli's over here dancing his ass off.
I think I don't
And,
know.
when your roommate is black or whatever, is that something that you haven't just like seen before? Or, I mean, to be fair, he is dancing to black hip hop music and black dances, but
Yeah, I mean, this is fair. I was figured I was gonna get something for this, but I've been doing this a while. But I just honestly, I just thought it was funny. I know it was usually black hip hop music, and I mean, you don't coming from white areas. You don't see a lot of people dancing. I guess that's kind of a stereotype that tends to be more true. How like white guys can't dance, or you know, like black guys are a lot better at dancing, or black people.
like
African
to add
Americans.
on to that because I grew up in a lot of white areas, and you wouldn't really see them dancing unless there were black people dancing to the songs, and then they would go dance to them, and it may have been they're uncomfortable to dance to this type of music.
I think just white people are
If
just
they're
weird.
the only ones.
We're just weird.
Yeah, it could be something.
Like,
Yeah.
I experienced that in high school.
I mean, like I went to 2 proms. I went to a couple homecoming dances, and I never really was like the dancing type. And then I got here, and like I learned some pretty dope moves. Gotta say, I learned some cool moves, you know, from my black teammates. And I don't know. I'm just more comfortable now. I guess I don't know if that turns to like. I don't know, because I'm more comfortable now. I guess like I was never really comfortable about going out and like moving.
Were there like things Eli did that you thought were like stereotypical black people things? For example, like he wears the do-rag.
Yeah.
He says the word nigga a lot. He sags his pants a little bit. Were there other things like?
I mean, there were some
just
stuff
like,
where
as you grew up that you were like.
I mean, I never.
hadn't seen.
I feel like I never really had a stereotype of black people like when I was growing up. I don't know.
Was it just from what you had seen in the media?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it's what you see in like in movies and TV and on the news and stuff. Like I can't honestly remember the first time I saw a black person, but I've been traveling a lot in like my life where I lived outside of Chicago when I was young. I lived outside of Detroit when I was a little bit older than that, and then I moved to New Hampshire and then Oregon, which are very predominantly white states. Where in each of those, in New Hampshire and Oregon, where I went to high school, they were both, in a school of 400, there were about 3 African Americans that went to school with me. But like, I never I was never like really good friends with them. I guess I was just in a different group where I never really I knew them well enough to say hi to them, but like I wouldn't chill at their house. I wouldn't go over and hang out with them.
So were there like things as you're like, I'm about to live with this essentially black stranger that you were like nervous about or worried about, or things that you might have thought had happened just from experience with seeing how black people are portrayed or just not knowing?
I guess there were some things that I kind of was a little nervous about coming in, like, but I mean, anything I was nervous about was just squashed like the first day. Like we went and drove to Walmart and we were just talking about like what type of music, I think, and he had some music I've never listened to before that was generally like black hip hop and rap and stuff. And I mean, there's black artists that I like too. So I mean, I think any nervousness I had was, I kind of afterwards. I mean, like sitting back now, any nervousness I had it was just kind of petty, Yeah. It's just because, I mean, I've never been living like 6 feet away from Eli at all times. Like, I don't know. I was a little nervous, but again, it's just kind of just in the past now.
So what about to expand past that? The first day we meet at track, and there's Eli, there's me, Rohan, Matt, Dewar, Julius, Javon, D, Najee,
Mariah,
all these black people. What did you think? Like, they're fast, or they may be problems.
I mean, that comes down to another stereotype. Like, I knew when I was coming in, like I was not gonna be the fastest on the team. Obviously, I come from like a little school of 400 kids when some of the kids on our team performed extremely well at very much larger schools and stuff. So I knew coming in that I was not going to be the fastest, but seeing like all these different shades, I guess, of people, I was kind of nervous to see how fast they were. Mm-hmm. Because I think I was more worried about like my spot on the team versus like having you next to me or having like Matt next to me. Mm-hmm. But again, looking back now, it's all behind me now. Like I feel like any nervousness I had, like showing up to practice that day, was just, I don't know. I'm good friends with all you guys now.
Yeah. What about you, Eli? Like you're like, oh shit, I'm about to live with this white guy I don't know from a small school. He could be racist. We might not get along. We might get in a fight. We might not like each other just because he might treat me weird because I'm black and we could be so different. Were you having thoughts like that? And then obviously you guys are like best friends now. It eventually got squashed, but what did you like bring in coming into that before really knowing him?
Well, I mean, we met like 3 years ago now at a track camp. We didn't really get to know each other too well because, there were tons of other people. But, I mean, I went to a predominantly white school in Northern California, and, I got the black stereotype. I mean, my high school had maybe less than 10 to 15 black kids, and then we had like the high school over the mountain where it's more black kids. But I just, I just thought, with being at the high school I was, that if people are going to be racist, they're racist, and I just have to deal with it. Like, if they're not going to change, there's nothing I can do. And I, living with Zach, I knew he wasn't racist. Like, if I ever made him feel uncomfortable, I usually asked him, like, is this bothering you or anything? Should I turn my music down, or is anything I'm doing bothering you? And he was got pretty comfortable with me, so it was nothing too much that I had to worry about. Like, I mean, I've been in predominantly white schools and almost all my life, so it's pretty much nothing that's changed. I mean, even with living with him for the last couple months, and we intend to live with each other the next year, I don't think anything's really gonna change. I think it'll all stay the same.
We're kind of getting like two different sides of this, like small school where it's mostly white, and then small school where it's like little black. Like,
yeah.
What about if you didn't know him? Say it was another one of our teammates. Say one of the kids from California you never met before. Do you think that would change your perspective different? Or if you had met him at the Oregon camp, would it make you more, I guess I want to say, wary to like be yourself around here and kind of play like that Uncle Tom look to like fit in more? Like you don't want to be too black that he's uncomfortable or it causes issues?
No, not really. I mean, like we met at the Oregon camp. We talked once, and then we hadn't talked until we met here again. So we actually got to know each other being here, and it's nothing like that. I changed myself because I'm a weird person overall. So it'll take a little bit for me to come out. But
Were you guys randomly assigned or?
No.
we chose each other.
Okay, so
I was originally in a room with a teammate, or he wrestled and did track, but he was a teammate of mine, went to the same high school, and then he ended up rooming with a wrestler, so I asked our coach, he's like, "Do you room with Eli?" I was like, "I know him, kinda."
And so, what did you think when you come to the room and there's like, oh shit, there's some black people here? I mean, obviously with track times, everyone looked everyone up and kind of knew what people could do, but when you seen all these, I don't know how many black teammates you had at Siskiyou. I had a few, and they were all the super ghetto, running the street kids.
I mean,
And I come here and I see all these black people, and it's like, and the white people are like, I'm not really sure what I'm gonna get, especially with my age and everyone being so younger. It causes other type of concerns. But what was your thoughts when you walk in and see probably more black people on a team you've ever been on, as well as more white people on a team you've ever been on?
I was indifferent. I mean, my team was, I want to say predominantly black for being at junior college because, you know, we had a lot of guys come from like Florida. So I mean, even with on the football team, you know, I got to look at the ghetto black guys and all of that. But you know, I'm from Colorado. I'm from a bigger city, so I did get to see some stuff like that. It was nothing that was too new or like not expected. I have seen these people before, so it just was like, oh, it's what I've already seen. And then with the white people, my track teams in high school were predominantly white, so it was nothing to really do. It was nothing different.
Okay. See, for me, I grew up in Provo, Utah, Mormon capital of the world, and the black kids in my school were always my brother and my sister. But my dad's African, so I didn't grow up with like the black community stuff. I was raised like we lived in Africa, so I didn't really get much interaction with like the way you would have. So when I first discovered hip hop music with Kanye's College Dropout, and so it was like that was so different than like the gangster rap. So I kind of grew up on that stuff and like blues music and the African music my dad would play. And then as I transferred to the school in Sacramento, it's like, boom, like big kind of culture shock, black community with all the stereotypes and all the type of peoples. And it's just so different than the African type of culture. I don't know if you've had anything like that, or you have with, because your parents are, what, Italian and Sicilian?
No, my mom is completely Italian. My dad, he's just like European, like
So,
I guess WASP.
Were you kind of
White
like
Anglo-Saxon
brought up in
Protestant.
like that kind of culture, or would you say like white culture?
If I had to put a label on it, I'd say probably just white culture.
Okay.
Like I wasn't raised Catholic or anything. Like I think my mom converted to a Methodist, which my dad was, and we kind of grew up in a white neighborhood with white people, with a white church when we went, with white schools. It was largely just a white culture. Yeah, like, I don't know. It's pretty much my answer.
Now let's move along to the N-word. Being nigga, nigger, and the N-word. Let's start with Eli. What do you think? Differences, thoughts?
Um,
I'm just gonna like tag out my section.
Well,
I'm not gonna talk.
like you said, I say it a lot, and I know it's a very derogatory term. I don't use the
Is it
ER.
derogatory to you? But who made it derogatory?
Well, it was mainly used by white males against slavery black men, and now as a culture we see it as a word of like saying friend or like acquaintance, and I feel like it's really really bad. Like we shouldn't use it like that because it was used as a racist term back then. Like why do we take such a terrible word that was used against the people that we come from and turn it into this word that we think is like, oh, it's cool to say this, but it's not. It's harmful. It hurts. It's like if we were to go back, if black people had to go back to Africa and we started saying it, they'd be like, why are you using that term? Like, don't you know your culture? That word hurt our people. And it's like, why do you guys think it's cool to use it? And like, I say it a lot, and I've been telling myself I need to stop, but it just like is like a natural flowing word out my mouth. Like I shouldn't have it that way, but it just comes out that way.
Well, you said if you went back to Africa, did they have experience with the N-word in Africa? Or was that strictly like an African American
That was kind of
experience?
But my question.
I was just wondering. This is just general. I'm not trying to like.
Do you not think that like black people have made it into a positive and empowerment? For example, the word bitch used to be negative, but you see now women claiming
The
that
word
as a
positive. I'm a bad bitch, so that means it's positive. No, I don't see it as good.
Positive, you still think it's harmful?
I think it's a negative word, but there's definitely a flow of it being like kind of good, but it's really not.
So you only think it's bad because of the way like white people created it to speak like down to black people, whereas if it was a word created by black people, it'd be okay, versus black people now making it empowering that word, saying this is our word and we're going to use it positively.
I think if that was the change, then yeah. I mean, it was such a negative word to start out with. If it came out as a positive word first, I don't think anybody would have a problem saying it. I mean, like people don't like white people saying. I bet you if it came out from black people and it was used as a big influencing word, we probably wouldn't mind it as much. We'd be like, okay. But since it was so negative, we don't like to see people of other cultures say it. Like I use it in more of a positive term. Like it's not like I'm like trying to downgrade another African American male. I'm just trying to say, oh, like, what's up, friend? What's up, homeboy? Something like that. I'm not like, oh, F you, because I'm better than you. It's all in my terms of saying it positive.
Okay, so I have a question for you, Zach. What is your thoughts on when you hear white people saying it everyday conversation compared to when you see white people using it in movies?
I don't think I hear it a lot in everyday context. When I hear it in everyday context, like in now, like when white people use it, it's like why? That's not your heritage to say. You didn't grow up. Your people, my people, we didn't have that as the term that was first negative, but now it's kind of become part of the culture. Like I don't know. Like I had my mom traced back my lineage. I had family that helped on the Underground Railroad. Like I claim that as part of my thing, but I don't throw around the N-word. Like I don't. It's not my culture. But I don't know.
What about when you see it in TV or you don't see it in TV, but
yeah,
unless it's like HBO. But when you see it in movies, do you think the way it's used is accurate, or it's like realistic, or white people just getting away with saying it? For example, and we'll talk about it later, Django, you having a white director having this white guy use the word so much.
Yeah.
compared to, and we'll talk again later, if Spike Lee was to use it, then you have a black director having a white guy say it. Like, what do you think is like different? Okay, is it okay for white people to say in movies versus in real life?
All right, my personal opinion, I think it kind of depends on the timepiece of it. You know, like if it's a Civil War set, like drama, and they're trying to get like the point across of what it's like the new Roots show that they have. That I think is that HBO putting on it or Showtime?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure, but there's a new Roots show, and if I saw that, I don't think I'd object to it because you know they're trying to get like the historically accurate. You know, that's a black empowering film and show, is it not?
Yeah.
And it's, I guess it's showing the culture. You know, maybe it's like.
So it's more okay if it's like in the right setting of the actual moment. Because when I think about what you just said, the movie 42 with Jackie Robinson.
Yeah.
I had read a lot of the books and stuff, and I didn't think it was too accurate portrayal because he was called that name and so many other things so many times.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they just didn't do that because it was kind of marketed towards families. But I just think it would have hit like harder for blacks to see that and whites to see that, is it would hit the heart more and feel, you would kind of feel the struggle and how bad it was, and then you would respect how much he went through to overcome and get as great as he does, to the point where every year they have a Jackie Robinson Day and every player wears his jersey.
Yeah. It's funny you bring up the sports figure because I was thinking about race, about the story of Jesse Owens. And Eli, was there any, you said the N-word in Race? Was with Jesse Owens, do you remember that much? Because I'm sure he faced the same thing. Because this was.
They just don't use it because they got to make the movies PG.
Yeah,
it's a family movie.
They're trying to kind of make money off it and get it to a bigger audience instead of making it more
accurate to the actual like timepiece.
I mean,
to contemporary times. Yeah.
I mean, they probably have made movies where they've done it, but that movie is probably more family friendly. They want to keep it more oriented towards his. Like, I mean, yeah, they should have put it more accurate so that they could have shown his whole career, like the correct version of his career, but just to like show kids, because you know some kids look up to idols like that. Oh, he did it like that, then I can make it. Like we all have idols we look up to like that. So why would they do it like that?
I think it was. I'll have to look it up, but it's probably because it's probably produced and directed by white producers and directors that word might not be there. I'm sure if 42 or Race was directed by, I mean, I'm gonna look this up right now to see who actually directed it, but if my hypothesis right now is correct, it'd be interesting to see that maybe they were just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not as ballsy as Tarantino, where he just wants to throw that around.
And I'll ask you a question about that later.
Yeah.
I remember when I watched 42, I was in the theater with my best friend who's white. We've been best friends since 6 or 7 years old. But we went to 42, and I remember, you know the scene when he first...
I don't think I've seen 42.
You've seen it, right?
I don't know, I'm messing up.
Oh my god. There's a scene where he finally gets to the league, and they play the national anthem. And I just remember, like, tears down my face, and just like all eyes on me, like, why is this kid crying? Yeah. It's just because they don't understand like what he went through to get there, and then it's just like it reminded me of stuff I had been through, having to go through and dealing with racism and all the sports that I did, and then getting to start in the varsity games and hearing that for the first time, like I actually made it.
Yeah.
And it's just like the struggle that's just like not understood because of just like not being black or whatever.
Yeah, that's a pretty deep, like, connection to the film and stuff. But I just looked it up, and both the directors for 42 and Race are white.
Okay.
I tried to look at the writers. Oh yeah, the director of 42 also wrote it. I couldn't see the pictures of the directors or the writers for Race, but I'm not sure.
So you could kind of say that the same thing about like when you were crying in the movie. My uncle, he told me when he went to go see Boys in the Hood with Ice Cube, when Ricky got shot, he was one of the black guys making it out the hood. So, the fact that he died, that hit everybody in the heart. So I understand what you mean about the crying once you see like a black guy go successful or a black guy getting killed before he can go successful.
Yeah.
I mean, let me ask you a question. If do you think that those movies, 42 and Race, do you think they needed the N-word in it? Because obviously 42, you had a pretty deep connection to it. And is it enough to show a story of success? Or do they need to have it completely accurate to the time era?
I think unless you're like pretty learned on the subject of it, because I wasn't, I felt like it needed it so you could really understand the hatred that was thrown at him. And not just use of the N-word, but the way they were to him on the field. He was always getting beamed, spiked, just all types of dirty play. And they didn't really show too much in the movie. And I don't know if it's just because the type of portrayal they were trying to go, or they didn't have enough time, or if it was the directors not being comfortable.
Yeah.
But I felt like it needed more of that to further understand, because I think the majority of the people didn't know a whole lot. They haven't read the book, so it would show to the person, baseball player or non-baseball player, who just has heard that Jackie Robinson is the first black player.
I mean, if you don't know the story about Jackie Robinson or Jesse Owens, it's like...
Oh, we had girls on our team who didn't know who Jesse Owens was.
That's very true. I mean,
and so when you have these generations, they turn on TV now, basketball, football, baseball, predominantly black leagues now.
Yeah.
And they just think that's black president. They just think it's normal.
Yeah.
So I think it's important in those kind of movies to show those things, because not everyone's going to know and fully grasp how big the situation is.
Yeah.
Which leads me to another point is, I don't know if it's good or bad that those kind of movies you see of the black successful person, it's like such a huge success.
Yeah. I mean, you have Pursuit of Happiness, 42, Race. You can throw in some other ones.
It's like, why do you
so
have to break
astounding,
Why do you have to break a world record or be the first person to do something or have this huge success to have movies with a successful black person? Or why does a black person have to do something so monumental to be successful, whereas a white person could do something so unextraordinary and they're portrayed in so many more successful ways?
Yeah. I mean, like, that just might be the time period. I mean, like in the 1930s when Jesse Owens raced, in the
36.
No, Jackie Robinson.
Oh, Jackie Robinson.
He was in the 50s, 60s, I think. Those were both such racist times in America. Like, if you wanted to get noticed and you're African American, I think you had to be great. You had to be the best one, because I mean, like, number two, I think they talk about this in Race, like number two just won't cut it. If you're trying to be this pioneer athlete and you were black in the day, like, you had to be the greatest.
Well, it reminds me of a joke Chris Rock talks about with Who Lives in His Neighborhood. It's like Dr. Dre, Mary J. Blige, Jay-Z.
And this is in Hollywood and stuff, right?
This is in one of his stand-ups.
No, I mean, like, where he lives.
In New York.
Oh, in New York.
It's like all these black people who were like the best at what they did.
Yeah.
And then he talks about how his neighbor is like a dentist, a lawyer, a doctor. Not the best lawyer in the world, not the best doctor in the world, but they're still able to have all these more opportunities to get all this money to live in these amazing places. And it took these black people to be the top of the field.
Yeah. Eli, I think I cut off something you were going to say. Anything? No.
All right, so my question is then, what are the differences to nigga, nigger, and people saying the N-word? And is any of them worse, better?
Well, if a white guy walked up to me and said, "What's up, my nigga?" I'd be a little startled at first, but it wouldn't like faze me as much. as if he walked up to me and said, "What's up, my nigger?" I'd be like, "Oh wait, hold on."
He used the hard
Like
R.
the hard R would get to me. Like it's like both should get to me because they're such negative terms, but I accept one more than I accept the other. I mean, if he walked up to me and said, "What's up, my N-word?" I'd be like, "Why don't you just say the word if you're gonna just say that?" Like,
Yeah.
you might as well. But I wouldn't be bothered as much by the N-word or nigga. But I just feel like nigger has such just a distasteful feeling to be said.
Like when you hear a black person say it with a hard R, you're like,
Yeah, like even if a black person says it to me, I'm like, hold
there's
on,
been
like that
times where
hurts.
we both thought we said a hard R, and we're like, what was that?
Yeah, it's just not comfortable.
I mean, I've heard both of you say it, or I've heard Cedric more when he's like doing the white guy voice.
Yeah.
And that's when he'll use hard R.
That's when we use hard R. How does that make you feel? Like, are you more like, why is he speaking as a white person in such this bad way? Like making it
Honestly, I've kind of
racial.
grown up when you learn about slavery. It's not like there were some black people that aided. It was all white, you know. And I can't like apologize for what they've done because I guess it's not me doing it, but I can still like. I don't know. I still think there's reparations to be paid, you know, and if.
Pay me.
I'll get you 40 acres. Don't worry. Just distracted me though. But if it makes you feel better to do that and to use the white guy voice in quotation marks and to portray like that, I mean, feel free. You know, it wasn't me. I wasn't there. You know, I mean, I still think. There's definitely shame in my past. You know, there's shame that I come from this. You see all the time in today's media where people just say like, "Oh, white people are to blame for the world's problems," and there's a little bit of truth to that. I mean, white people have been in power for how long in the world?
Hundreds of years.
Yeah,
Always.
you could say always, and there's just a lot of shame in my past and my history, you know.
But, like when you say that, it makes me think like the fact that they say white people are to blame instead of like just bad people.
Yeah.
And I think like it could just be a coincidence that they're white, or it could not be. It could just because then you get into topics of so why are they bad? They're white, so they're bad. And
They're bad, so they're
just
white.
go off of everything. Do you think? What do you think of white people saying specifically the N-word? You see it on TV. It feels like a way for them to get away with saying it on television. Because if a black person was to say either of the N-words on TV, it's gonna get bleeped. But they don't bleep a white person saying the N-word. Just like.
Yeah.
When they're reading a script and it says a curse word in it, they'll say the F word, the S word.
But N-word's so much different.
Yeah, it's like why is the word nigga bleeped when it's white television, white owners, white companies? Why are they bleeping out that word?
I honestly couldn't tell you that.
You can say bitch and shit on TV.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you that, but I know it's wrong. You know, I mean, if you're gonna, some people have talked about if you're gonna say it, say it. Don't beat around the bush and say the N-word. I don't feel comfortable. So I'm in the group where I don't really feel comfortable saying it, I guess, and like, so I'm not going to.
But I mean, also in that same breath, sometimes like, you know, they bleep it because kids accidentally stumble on that show or they find it interesting. They're like, oh, you know, I'm going to continue watching this. So maybe that's another reason why they're just like, okay, well, you know, sometimes kids watch this. You know, we have the warning, but what's a warning going to do? That's not going to stop anyone.
But what do you feel about like reporters on news shows that say, like when President Obama said it, they're like, President Obama said the N-word in a speech.
Yeah.
When they just said the N-word, like that as a sentence. What do you feel about white reporters saying that? I don't think it's okay. I don't think it's, I guess, right for them to say that.
That's what, I think it's the way you're just saying. You put it in our head. Now we say it.
Yeah.
We know what you're saying, but you're like not taking ownership of it.
Yeah.
So
How would you go about saying it then if instead of saying the N word?
Well,
How
if
would
they
you
were to
say
say nigga, they're gonna bleep it.
Yeah.
So why even put it on your telecast?
Why even bother bringing it
You
up?
could just say President Obama is.
Well, I mean, that was kind of a joke.
Derogatory term.
That was kind
in
of a
his
joke
speech.
to begin with, that whole
Yeah.
outrage by that.
They could just say it different. I don't know. I don't really know what the solution is, but again, you hear the word bitch and shit not bleeped on TV.
Yeah.
The F word will be bleeped. Sometimes ass is bleeped. When you hear them say God damn it, God is bleeped.
Yeah.
And then it's not like they would start saying the G word.
Yeah. I think it's because of the racial context of the word. You know, like, for so long, not for so long, but, you know, in the past years, I guess the past decades, you always hear white people can't say that. You're not supposed to say that to white people.
So it feels like they found a way to say
It's
it.
that's exactly it. But I mean, you have to, like you were saying, how you couldn't think of a way to say it without saying that. I mean, the one way to get rid of that problem of saying the N word is just get rid of the word. Like, not get rid of the word. What I want to say it. Get rid of like the negativity of the word. Get rid of like the taboo of the word. Like I guess like
Well, I think
the surrounding. You know what comes with the word. When you say that, there's stuff that comes with it. There's maybe consequence. Maybe just like, I don't know. It's the stuff that comes with the word and surrounds the word. I feel if you just get rid of that and just made it, if it was just a word. I mean, like, even Eli was saying how when you hear it, it's like, you know, it's a derogatory term. You know it for, like, way back in our history, how bad of a term that was.
I think part of that is the way we grew up.
Yeah.
And I'm in a little bit different generation than you guys. Mm-hmm. He still went through it. But now you see a 4-year-old kid saying it, 3-year-old kid saying it, parents recording them, it's on Facebook, it's viral, and they're just talking like it's normal.
Yeah.
As well as cursing. And then the generation below you guys, they don't see the negativity, and it's just a normal word to them. So I wonder if 100 years, no one's going to know that it had a negative thing to it, just like they think 100, 200 years, the world's going to be mixed with all different types of races.
Yeah.
I think just with time, that's eventually
inevitable.
Gonna wear out. Maybe like 2 generations down the line, that's gonna be such a normal thing, and like when we're all past, it's kind of be like everyone's gone. That was a negative word too.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the other thing.
I mean, we're like how many years away from like the slavery era? 1860. Like, we're
not even 200 full years.
Yeah, we're about like 150 years, and it's still such a big part. I think it's probably because like the civil rights movement is still not dying. You know, you have Black Lives Matter, and you have all these other movements where I think until we, as a society, realize that race shouldn't matter, you know, until like we're at the point where it just should be. It shouldn't be so taboo to think of races as not. I shouldn't even say race. Like, just like humans as all equal. Until we see that, I don't think these words will go away.
All right, so here's like the money shot question. Do you think the use of the N-word in any form, removing that, or just the existence of that word and how prevalent it is today, is prohibiting us from having like racial equality? Because it's so controversial. Black people using it. White people are like, oh my God, they're using it. And then black people are, oh my God, white people are saying it. Why are they mad that we're saying it? You can't even say it on TV. You can't even quote someone saying it on TV. Mm-hmm. You think it has a huge effect on prohibiting equality?
Sorry.
Eli first.
I'm drinking water.
What do you think? Too complex a question for you?
No. I don't know.
Let's say that word didn't exist.
Then I don't think there'd be the stigma around it. If it never was created or never was used in a negative way, there'd be nothing to worry about.
Do you think there'd be a step closer to like equality in how people talk to each other or portrayed? If, like, let's say black people made that word and they called everyone it and it was just a thing that people just called each other? Or is it because it came from a white, awful situation that it's made this huge divide on people?
Well, I don't feel like it's exactly just that word all the time, too. I feel like it's, some white people still see, like, the whole stigma of white is pure and black is, negative, or it's seen as, terrible. And I think that also has a role played in it. Like, it's just like a word, words do hurt, but you can't blame it on the color of a skin. Like we could be racially equal to have that word said through everybody, and it doesn't hurt anybody. But it's just like we're still seen that way with the color of our skin. Like you could completely take words out of it. The color of our skin is darker, so we're seen as more terrible people.
Yeah. So you think if that word just didn't exist tomorrow, would it change anything?
I feel like little things here and there would change. I don't feel like it'd be a huge change. Just tiny changes. It it takes 21 days to break a habit. Mm-hmm. It's not going to change in a day. It'll change weeks later.
So you think if that word, we wake up tomorrow, we've never known what that word is, that something else would be created?
Oh yeah. It's just like how, we create new songs, we create new dances, we create new movies, we create new talks, something new's gonna come. There's always a creation of something.
I think there'd be like if you got rid of that word completely, you'd see like the true face of racism. Mm-hmm. Some people hide behind that word as like as a way to be racist, but maybe they're just maybe their thought is we're just trying to make it equal. If I'm white and I say it, like maybe it'll be equal or something. But I think if you remove that word, you'd see the true nature of racism. I don't think it would change anything to see that word, because you still have the past. Yeah. If you remove slavery, one, like you guys probably wouldn't be here. Like, there'd be a little bit of African migration, but without slavery, the black population of the United States would be there would be almost none. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think if you remove the word, it's not gonna I don't think it would change anything. Maybe stuff would even get worse because there'd be no way to vent the racism. It would just come to fruition.
So moving along to Spike Lee and Tarantino's Django, kind of segueing from the N-word. Why would you think Tarantino feels okay to use it so much, to the point where Spike Lee's like, I don't want to watch that movie? And then the talks of, we talked about in class, what if all you did was change the title card from Tarantino to a Spike Lee joint? What would be your thoughts on that, Zach?
It's hard to do that. Tarantino is just such a different style from Spike Lee. But if you could wrap your head around taking Django in its form and just slapping Spike Lee's name on it, I don't know. I think Tarantino might think is okay because of the timepiece, because he does mess around in the Civil War era. That Django and then Hateful Eight were both Civil War timepieces. Maybe he just feels comfortable because of. Maybe it goes back to what I was saying.
I'd like to see if there's research on him talking about that.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see.
But it makes me. I wonder if. Some of the people thought like it would be okay if it was Spike Lee did it, and I asked them what, because he's black, so now the N word's okay for them to say.
Yeah,
Cause
you
he's
still
black.
have
Like, it
what
doesn't
percent of
matter if-
Django was black characters? There was Django, his wife, there were
slaves.
The other slaves.
but
then, like,
the main cast was white.
yeah, you had Samuel Jackson had a predominant role, but he was more like we talk about the white.
The Uncle Tom.
Yeah, he hated black people. He was the Uncle Ruckus. But I thought it was very like ignorant. It was hurtful to hear people think it's okay if Spike Lee made it because he's black and he can say that word. And they kind of made it about like a race thing without realizing whoever made the movie, like that stuff still happened. Like,
Yeah.
they still use the word. They seem to take away like, oh, it's okay because he did it. It's not negative anymore.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess it would be Spike Lee's voice, but Leonardo DiCaprio's mouth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's still their mouth saying it. They're saying it just out loud, everyone to hear. You know, it's. I don't know if it would be okay if Spike Lee had his name on it. You know,
Well, it's hard to like just do that direct swap because you know Spike Lee would make that movie so much different.
if he even tried to make a movie like that, you know,
He would
he deals with
show-
cities and urban areas, but
He would show off the black empowerment in slavery, like how they came together to get through the struggle.
I think there'd be a lot more black characters.
Yeah, because I was talking to you about earlier, and I said in class, the movie doesn't really say much about Django. It's not about him getting his freedom. It's about a white guy
Pointing
basically
at bad people
offering
and
Django freedom if you come with me and kill these slave owners.
Yeah.
And so he uses Django as a tool to get what he wants, and it's that journey, and then at the end he gets freed. And then he comes back and
I mean, he does kind of free himself by his own means, though.
yeah,
That's his
he
own.
comes back and he kind of puts his stamp on it.
Yeah.
But it's way different than the
But
way
the-
you would look at 12 Years a Slave.
I mean, the amount of time that Django is on his own and does his own thing is like, what, like a runtime of like 15 minutes?
The very end scene.
Yeah, it's literally like, it's such a small percent of that movie. Like, just him acting alone as himself, as
And it
Django.
would be smaller, because the only time he's by himself is after
After
Walsh is dead,
Schultz, or
and then he kills the Australian guys and comes back and then kills everyone and then rides off into the sunset.
yeah, it's such a little time. I mean, even then though, he's doing everything that Scholes, is it Scholes? Dr. King Scholes, I think.
I don't remember the character name.
Okay, Christoph Waltz.
Yeah.
It's like everything that he taught him. You know, it's Django being crafty, but you know, crafty in the mindset that he was taught.
Yeah.
Essentially.
What do you think, Eli?
Well, you saw Django for the first time recently, right?
Yeah, I saw Django for the first time recently. I've been told to see it multiple times. I just never got around to it, and I finally got around to it. I think if you were to slap like they were saying Spike Lee's name on it, you know, black people be like, oh, that's my shit. I fucking love Django. La da da this, la da da that, and it's like, okay, well, with a white guy doing it, do you feel the same way? Like, is it cool that he did it? And you know, I can't get the voice of every black person, but you know, if Spike Lee did it, I think there'd be more of an uproar in the black community about a movie like that. But like you guys said, Spike Lee doesn't do movies like that, so it wouldn't be anything like that.
Yeah.
I think there'd also be an uproar more so from the white community, because they seem to be so uncomfortable about this word that they made up. And I try to talk
Sure.
about that in class, like, you would see some uproar from the black community, but I feel like there would be more from the white. Like, why would he can't make a movie like this is terrible. Why is he using this word so much? Why is he killing slave masters? Why is it so graphic? Like, he's killing slave owners. And there was still backlash about that, Django killing the slave owners and the violence, like.
Do you think slavery?
he's a
Like, do you think
slave
slavery was
killing
pretty?
slave owner.
Do you think that was pretty? Do you think that was cool?
and I mean, I think that's what our generation doesn't get is that, slavery was not a pretty thing. Like, as much as we want to sugarcoat it and say, oh, it was just, it was just a couple.
But look at the black
lips.
empowerment afterwards.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like, no, you gotta look at the struggle of the time period. I think what should be an uproar was showing, I guess, the whip marks on Django's back and his wife's back. That should be an uproar. I mean, because it's this awful atrocity
You
thing.
shouldn't
Like,
be mad at the
You should be-
words.
yeah.
You should be mad at this is what actually happened. And
Yeah.
there's a
like, oh, he killed a white guy. That's terrible. Oh, his back is
Torn up.
shredded
yeah,
because he tried to run for freedom.
because he wanted to be a free human.
Yeah,
It's
Remember-
the natural human
That should
ability to
be,
want to
yeah.
be free.
Then, like I said earlier, like I can't even really apologize for it, but I can just be so ashamed of like the stuff in the past.
I was watching Dave Chappelle talk about.
It's
one of
surprising. It's surprising how many like black comedians and black shows like Key and Peele. I mean, like black comedy shows have so much satire in them. Like if you really dig deep into it, like I don't think it's overreaching, but you
It
look
seems
at
like
it.
they're
and it's
only
like,
able to talk about it if they put humor in it.
Yeah.
But I remember he talked about a sketch that like the Comedy Central wouldn't let him put on, and it was the time traveling player haters.
yeah.
He goes back in time and he shoots the slave owner,
Yeah.
and they're like, you can't show that. And
Was it because he shot the slave owner? Or was it
It was.
because
I think
they
it's
showed
I think
slavery?
it's kind of what he said. He was like, I remember this
he
part
says,
exactly.
"Reach for the sky honky and shoots him.
Yeah, and then that's
But how
white people
often
don't-
does Dave Chappelle use the N-word?
He uses it a lot, but they wouldn't let him show a black slave shooting a slave master. But yet you can show movies where the slave master is calling a black guy a nigger a bunch of times and
whipping
a
him.
whole bunch of other stuff. What he's gonna do to your wife and kids, whipping you till you die,
Yeah.
and that's okay to show, but you can't show without criticism of where a black slave doing whatever it takes to become free.
Yeah.
When white people were doing whatever it takes to keep them enslaved.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting counter narrative
That's
to
a,
each
that's
other.
a very good point.
I don't really know so much if I don't know if you could do like Spike Lee doesn't have very many like gore movies that you could slap Tarantino on it.
It'd be interesting to see if Tarantino did a version of Chirac.
True. I just know if Spike Lee were to do Django, it would be more of like a
Empowerment, like you were saying
would
earlier.
show the beautifulness inside of slavery that the Africans had with each other.
Yeah.
The songs.
They probably would have put more on like his marriage instead of saying, "Oh yeah, Django was married."
Yeah, he's not just murdering. Like, this would be why he is.
Yeah.
Because of all the stuff that happened to him, and you would see the slave songs, the slaves coming together.
Yeah.
Um,
It'd be interesting to see
just the
Spike Lee.
struggle of how they got through it together, all the loss, and they're still able to get through it.
Yeah, I would. If Spike Lee made like a Civil War era film, that'd be really interesting to see. He does like the. What is it like the urban struggle? I guess.
He
does
shows
like
a
that
lot
show.
of the modern day black versus white kind of urban struggle.
But in some ways, that's probably more important than showing slavery,
True.
because there's still a struggle going on
You
today.
still see the struggle rooted explicitly from the slavery, just
Yeah.
so different now.
Mhm.
And there's tons of black celebrities that talk about how we're still enslaved,
Yeah.
but it's now become not so much about race, but also about class. And then that's broadening past just color.
Yeah.
And there just doesn't seem like there's any escape from it.
That's very true. I don't know. It's hard to. It's hard to say that there's a way to end racism. I don't know. I consider myself kind of progressive in the way that I don't think. I try not to think racist thoughts, because I try not to think stereotypical thoughts. I mean, I still can't. because stereotypes are so deep rooted in our society, sometimes I catch myself slipping up. Well, I'll think something and be back and be like, why did I have to think about that? You know, like, that's not helping anybody. Even though it's in my mind, I'm never going to say that out loud. It's still hard to see all that, like, I guess, in society, in my own head.
Eli, last thoughts?
No, I have none.
0 thoughts?
We just talked for about 70 minutes. That's an hour and 10 minutes, and you got nothing.
Well, you know, I kind of got all my points across about how I felt.
Yeah.
Like I said, you know, it would be nice to see a change. Like if, like Cedric was saying, we woke up and the word was gone, like completely erased from every human's mind in the world, just to see how that would go. I think it'd be nice to. It's a nice thought. I'd actually wonder like how that would work. Like I think it'd be an interesting movie if like, I mean, like, not to say that, you know, we should just make a movie about the N-word, but just to see how things would be if that word was gone.
You don't think there'd be negative repercussions?
Well, like Cedric said, it might cause more racial uproar, but, you know, we can never tell because it's not happening.
True.
Let me ask you this. If we were to make, as a project, a movie similar to Groundhog Day, where a black person, and maybe you could do it a white person, wakes up and no one else in the world ever heard that word nigga.
And just one person has.
And that guy does. And then what would people call him if he was black? Or if he was white, what would he call the black people? How would you do that? Which, by the way, we might have to make this film.
Would you think it'd be better? To
you know, I don't have such creative mind with film and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's more of our.
But that's more of you guys.
So if we woke up tomorrow, what would you call me? Would you just say, "What's up, Cedric"?
What's up, Cedric?
Sorry.
You have a name. Saw, dude. You have a name. Like, I don't have to call you my nigga. You have a name I can call you. You were given a birth name. Why do I call you my nigga? Like.
But if you were to use a term not of my name, and you had never heard of that word,
I would say, "What's up, bro? What's up?" Like,
something like that.
Yeah, it's an easier word to use.
I guess it'd be interesting to see if you wanted a white character in that, someone that's like made like a white character that's like hella racist, and just like wakes up and he's throwing around hard R and people just look at him like,
People just like never heard the word.
what is that? Like reintroducing to society. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if it was kind of a Groundhog Day and there was one black guy who still had that word in vocabulary and one white guy who still had it.
And then you could portray both their different views on it.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Just having like the different viewpoints, I guess.
Yeah. Huh. Make sure you download our mixtape.
SoundCloud.
The niggas.
342A. Dorm reviews.
Wasp trap.
Yeah.
Drop it.
Well, I think that's all we have for now.
We gotta get some outro music, something like that.
Yeah.
We need some intro music and outro music.
I don't think there's anything else.
Some smooth jazz.
Some smooth jazz.
I'll just sign off.
342A. Views from DormRoom Views. I messed that up. Zach.
Elijah.
Cedric, we'll catch y'all next time.